we are on Cloud Kingdom, and in the top right-hand corner, we have our Red Terran player from the team Acer, the one and only MMA. He's our Red Terran player, and his opponent down in the bottom left-hand corner from Dream Team Gaming, our Blue Terran player, Pulsar.
All right, so Cloud Kingdom TVT, I mean, Terrans tend to like this map just in general. It's really, really nice for hunkering down on 3 bases. It lends itself towards the mobility of small units or small unit groups, excuse me. And at the same time, you know, one of the key elements of fighting on Cloud Kingdom and being aggressive is, you know, having the ability to push in at the second and push in from the third and kind of jumping back and forth between the two. But when you're in Terran versus Terran, options really do open up in terms of, like, you know, some of those maps, it's like, hey, Whirlwind, you're probably going to go for mech. It's really, really good on this map. Cloud Kingdom, you know, you can secure those 3 bases pretty easily, but, jeez, vulnerability in terms of drops, Kevin, it's crazy what you can do with that on Cloud Kingdom.
That's true, but this is certainly a map that, if you stabilize at 3 bases versus 3 bases, can kind of draw out to some of the longest, most protracted siege tank marine battles you've ever seen. Because there's such obvious high ground potential for where these tanks can be positioned in a very defensive nature, it's almost comically easy to position a couple of tanks like up here on the high ground inside of your main where they're totally protected and shell down fire all the way from your third to your natural to your main. So it can really, really lend itself to long games.
Yeah, it's and it goes back to also, you know, how hard 4th bases can be to take on this map. We always see planetaries at 4ths on Cloud Kingdom. Pretty much, I can't think of a matchup we don't, except for like ZVZ and PvP. So
yeah, I agree with that.
Stage. MMA is going to be getting his scout off now, while Pulsar is circled down the bottom of the map, checked for any possible proxies, and will of course be looping his way up for a scout as well here in a moment.
Now, of course, MMA sees no gas from his opponent. He himself has gotten a refinery, and he's not bothering to really hide this. I mean, he is going to have a Marine out in time, which is actually going to end up working out pretty well for him. He didn't decide to... He would have been susceptible to an early scout like the one that he just sent out, but that's quite all right for him.
Well, let's see if he can pick off this SCV. It's going to be pretty close.
Oh, no,
he actually doesn't manage to do it. Looks like he looked away from that Marine just a second the SCV came by, and so that refinery will be glimpsed upon.
Yeah, and I don't think he's clicked on it quite yet, so we didn't see if it was a gas first or if it was after the barracks. But I guess it doesn't matter too much for him. He's going to have to plan for tech accordingly. We'll probably see a defensive bunker up the front at some point. It is, in fact, a reactor being constructed for MMA, as he's eventually going to drop down that factory and then go for a command center shortly thereafter.
All right, well.
Or just before.
Yeah, it just started, actually. Both players will have CCs on the ground. Then we see Pulsar is actually following this up with double racks before he opts to go for his gases. So he's going to be able to have a lot of Marines here. We'll have to see what MMA decides to do with this gas. He actually very quickly throws down a second one, in fact, and starts working on that factory. So the high Marine count for Pulsar could definitely prove to be in a little in his favor here. However, at the same time, Kevin, if we do see Cloak and no engineering bay, it's going to be a long ways away from being able to get a Viking out.
And MMA is not producing anything with his reactor barracks quite yet, so could just be serving to switch on to some other sort of tech. Now, with this kind of an opening, too, you can very easily transition into mech, so possible that we're going to see eventually a couple more factories added on and some heavy mech play out of MMA.
Yeah, it's definitely a possibility, you know, saying how easy it is to kind of cover things up on 3 bases on this map. You do have to build a lot of turrets, but hey, there's the starport, by the way, from MMA. And I mean, Cloak Banshee, man, I'm a little afraid for Pulsar in that regard. If he doesn't build the engineering bay, could run into a world of trouble because he's going to have these Marines. Now, and he started stim. Oh, this could be so difficult for Pulsar. All going down, of course, guys, to whether he builds that eBay or not. But if he does not, he's only going to have very weak, squishy Marines on the ground. He will not have a starport. He will not have the option to make Vikings, Ravens, none of that. Just going to be Marines. He does throw down the eBay, though, and that is just so important.
Okay, there we go. So prioritizing all upgrades, that +1, the add-ons, everything like that. Going to delay his factory and eventual starport transition here for quite a bit. And we'll see what pops out of MMA in the meantime. Of course, swaps that around. Scan does not pick up on any of this. That's too far away. And the Cloak Banshees are starting right now.
That was pretty clever out of MMA. So the second the scan went down, he started up the 2 Marines, and he cancels them, in fact.
Yeah.
That was extremely clever out of MMA, because, you know, Pulsar is going to be looking to see if MMA is making any units out of that reactor barracks. But MMA actually wants to follow this up with a quick third command center, so trying to convince Pulsar that he's making units where he's really going for economy. Super smart stuff.
Pulsar's picked up on the Cloak Banshees pretty well, though. I mean, he's already got his defensive missile turrets dropping down in range, so it's going to aggravate MMA a little bit. You know, even explicitly detected with missile turrets, Cloak Banshees can still do some damage. They can be very annoying. They can poke in at things like just jump in here and try and pick off a couple of add-ons, things along those lines. So they have their purpose, even though it's not going to kill a bunch of workers like MMA would like.
Yeah, but it, it forced the missile turrets, and MMA has probably pushed Pulsar in the wrong direction in regards to what he expects MMA to be doing right now. We'll see if he does drop down a third command center, though. As of now, Pulsar is really just gearing up for the possibility of an attack. Maybe we'll see some medevacs here in the near future. I'm waiting for... Actually, he built a factory with a tech lab on it and has started up siege tech.
All right. Well, yeah, he's just going right for Marine Tank. And MMA, of course, does see the missile turrets and gets out of there with his Banshee, even knows the range of these units quite well and dumps a couple of shots off from the outside of his base.
Well, Pulsar's going to need to switch gears here. He bit the bait. I mean, he went for very fast siege tech, which, in all regards in TVT, is one of the nice snipe, though. Not to be, too unexpected, of course, with Stim being completed, but I really do want to point out that he went for siege tech before he went for combat shields, before he started making any medevacs. This is a very fast siege tech out of Pulsar, and he's expecting an attack here in the near future from MMA, and it's not coming. MMA is throwing down an engineering bay. He's got his third base completed. He's doing upgrades. He is not letting it push, and Pulsar's waiting for that.
And I do want to say that, MMA has dumped some resources into these Banshees. Of course, while these Banshees have been produced, he's not been able to go after medevacs. He's not been able to produce Vikings, things like that. So it sets him back a little bit there. It's also, you have the 400 resources for the Cloak itself, then the 250 apiece for each of the Banshees. That's 900 resources, but he forces 2 scans out of his opponent. He kills 3 Marines and 2 workers. So he still manages to get in and do a little bit of damage, even if it's not to the degree that he would have liked.
So MMA is actually finished with siege tech now, and this is just crazy. I'm like seeing how much trickery is actually going on here, because MMA got Pulsar to get the really fast siege tech. Pulsar now kind of realizes you're not pushing. Something's wrong. So now Pulsar's going to be pushing out across the map, but MMA anticipated this. He actually went for very fast siege tech, and consequently, he's going to be completely ready for when Pulsar pushes here. Behind this, MMA has a third base. He's got 2 engineering bays pumping out upgrades to Pulsar's 1. Pulsar just dropping a third behind this push, but MMA anticipated this push. He's going to be ready for it. He's got siege tanks. He's got the siege tech. Nothing should be able to damage him here besides some crafty drop play, which he's got to make sure he defends against.
You're exactly right. And even if he were to take a little bit of economic damage from this, he still has the ability to reproduce all those workers very quickly with that earlier third orbital command. Now, this is a little bit tricky. This is a bit of a wild card. Pulsar deciding not to just do a straight-up attack, but rather to get in and, do a little bit of pressure from outside the main in the way of sieging up at the third. That's going to be problematic for MMA. He's forced to pull all of his SCVs off the line for a little while. He can eventually rally in the forces and take care of this, but, ends up losing quite a few forces and some structures in the meantime.
Yeah, he's lost a Viking, 4 SCVs, a refinery so far. He's definitely taken some damage from this. Now, if he can clean up these Marines, though, without taking too much damage, which he does, he cleans up about 8 Marines there and loses maybe 2 or 3 on his own side. So definitely equalize that, because if Pulsar had picked that up and gotten out there with an acute drop that definitely did some damage, stopped some mining time, but in the end, he lost all those units.
All right. Well, that is a Marine. I saw a blue dot on the map, and I was like, I don't see anything here. What's going on? Oh, okay, no, he's just behind the little laser wall. Third base should be sat down for MMA in just a second. He can get out there with a couple of units in a minute and make sure that this contain isn't continuing to happen, which indeed it is not. 3 Marines from this little 4 Marine pack are just going to move up, scout for a little bit. Pulsar doing nothing, though, but cleaning up these destructive rocks. As we can see, though, we are starting to stabilize into that Marine tank phase that we were talking about before. 5 barracks, double factory, reactor, starport, 3 bases, all very normal stuff from Pulsar at this stage of the game.
Yeah, he's wrapping up his armory right now. Does he have a second engineering bay, though? I didn't see it being constructed. It could have been finished beforehand, and it was. Okay, yeah. So he's going to be able to start his 2-2 upgrades here in just a moment once he gets his gas, and there they go. So Pulsar now actually jumping ahead in the upgrade race, as MMA has seemingly forgotten to begin his own.
It looks like MMA did a little damage to these SCVs that tried to run down there. Did he actually end up killing any? Yeah, it looks like he got a couple there. So that ended up being a worthy investment for those Marines. It also lets him know where his opponent's army is, and he decides to take the time to start moving out on the map and positioning near the Zelnaga Tower. He's actually forcing a bit of an engagement there. Scan goes down as the siege tanks start trading a little bit, but MMA has 2 tanks firing on his 1, and will lose that in a second, but takes out 1 in the meantime. Oh, and the scan disappears, so he even saves that one.
That was so convenient. Pulsar is going to be finishing up his own sensor tower as well. Both these guys gearing up for, as you said, that's like the one thing on Cloud Kingdom that I feel is so reliable. You know, as you take the third, the sensor tower goes down because both players just turtle up.
That's right. So grab some popcorn, ladies and gentlemen, because we could be in for a long one at this stage. And what happens in Siege Tank TVT? Someone's got to get aggressive eventually, whether you're fighting over a 4th base in the middle of the map or you just decide to bull rush your way up with some sort of crazy sieging shenanigans. Eventually, one player is going to move on the aggressive.
Kind of like poking somebody with a stick. At some point, you don't know when they're going to just explode, grab the stick, and hit you with it, but it'll happen eventually.
So if that exploding stick, ends up not doing that much damage to you, you win. If it ends up, well, here MMA is actually going to be the one poking. He's got all of his siege tanks sitting on the low ground, loses a lot of Marines there. But the fact of the matter is he's still got a considerable tank lead, and he's reinforcing with more Marines from the side. Yeah, well, he's really down in economy right now, and he's going to be behind in upgrades in just a moment here, so I can't say I disagree with MMA deciding to push. He's got a lot of units here, and he gets a nice spread with his Marines. We'll see if it's enough. Moving forward right now, trying to get some damage in on the tanks. 1 tank falls, 2, 3, 4 tanks have fallen. All of a sudden, Pulsar down by almost 40 supply. That was fantastic. And if he can kill this orbital command too, it'd be even better. Doesn't look like he's going to be able to get that one. The siege tanks are all up. He's just going to pick off a few SCVs as he retreats. Actually, if he had just focused those from the beginning, he would have killed almost all of them. It was a tough call, It's a gamble. Yeah, it definitely is. If he kills the command center, well, that's all he wanted, but, he didn't manage to do it, so actually not really any damage done for those few seconds from MMA's end. However, he's got this 3rd base under lock right now. He can siege up. He's got to continue to reinforce across the map, as we're seeing, and what Pulsar needs to do here is go for a big drop play, because MMA has got him contained right now. He may be able to break this, however, before the reinforcements do arrive, but no, they've arrived now, and MMA has got all his army together again. That's right. Whoa, lost almost every one of those submarines. That helmet flew across the field, man. Well, it worked out for Pulsar there, but now he's down by 40 supply. His opponent has an effective contain on this base. In fact, MMA scans, and I do believe that command center, yes, it is in range, so it's going to be very difficult to try and get any mining done. That tank does go down, and continuing to pick off the valuable units of Pulsar is MMA. Now, he has managed to, for the moment, reestablish at this 3rd, but he isn't far enough out, and look at this, MMA able to siege up on the left side of this ramp from MMA's perspective. Yeah, that's just going to be able to shell away. That completely negates the defender's advantage. Not completely negates it, but significantly evens the playing field, I should say. It really does. Yeah, and that allows MMA to start crawling his units up, and that's what prompts Pulsar to pull his command center away. And now MMA, he's on 4 command centers. This may become a planetary fortress here in a bit. He's got the 3 orbital commands to already replenish his mule count as he goes along, and he's going to engage this straight up, and he's on even upgrades. And actually pushing ahead, his 3-3's coming much quicker than Pulsar is. This was, I mean, with this 3rd base, MMA can afford to do so much more, so we're going to see continued things that MMA is able to do that Pulsar's not. There's the planetary on that 4th, as you were just saying, Kevin, and Pulsar's going to try to push out and get some stuff done now, as he really needs to secure the position on the left-hand side, this 9 o'clock base, as he's about to take it right now. He has to make sure he can get hold of that Zelnaga, which MMA has complete control of right now, pushing forward with his Marines. MMA taking some heavy losses right now, actually, maybe a bit too much. Yeah, a bit hasty on that. I mean, this is still Siege Tank TVT, and even these 4 tanks that were sitting up on the high ground are enough to repel almost infinite amounts of Marines if they're grouped close enough. So MMA does lose a few forces, but picks off a medevac in return. But he's still got really, really good control of this game. He absolutely does. That 3rd base from Pulsar, he's not able to get any units up there. Marines engaging against tanks right now. Pulsar losing 30 supply in a mere heartbeat. Yeah, that was not as successful as he would have liked. I mean, he's trying to break out so he can reinforce this position and make sure that he can protect this base, because all it takes is 4 Marines going over there, and all the economy is shut down. No, it's completely true. I mean, at which I'm surprised, actually, MMA hasn't done, as there's just so much over there, but maybe he doesn't expect it. Now he should. Scanning this 3rd, realizing, what? You haven't tried to retake this?
as he's losing some tanks right now, but Pulsar's sacking a lot. Oh no! He just lost another. He lost 8 plus 4. Kevin, that's 12. I can't do math as fast as you. But he lost 12 Marines and a
It's a
medevac
lot,
there
though.
for
It's
a
a
tank.
lot. Yeah, you can have 2 tanks, but still, that's not going to break MMA's position. MMA still has a 5-tank advantage, even after losing 2. He's got them pretty spread out because they're in multiple positions. But look at this. MMA's going to force Pulsar's hand now because Pulsar has to react to this because if he doesn't, then his entire base is gone. If he does, then MMA groups up his forces and starts to push up the front. And Pulsar's not reacting. He's going to go for the counterattack, which means he's going to lose everything behind him.
He leads with his tanks. Now his Marines can't get by. They're trying. Look at the SCVs. Oh, this is it. This is it. The SCVs needed to be there to buffer. Instead, they're there to try to clean up afterwards.
GG, well played, and MMA wins 4 in a row. He is just 1 game away from all-killing Dream Team Gaming.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a score of 4-1 right now, and MMA is really impressing here.
Yeah, yes he is.
Yeah.
So, wow, Dream Team Gaming's down to their last player, actually. And it's going to be the same ace that we've seen multiple times from them. It's going to be GG Andal.
Yeah, and we'll see if he can pull it off. You know, MMA's on fire right now. That's the reality of things. The map is going to be Whirlwind, guys. We're going to cut to a very quick commercial break. Don't go anywhere. We have potentially the last match of the night coming up next.